Welcome to the Ground Up Podcast, coming to you from the Level Wellness Studio inside the B2 Wellness Suites, the show that helps you turn pain into pivot and gives you the confidence to build your business. I am Terry Barga. I'm one of your hosts today. I'm here with the lovely Vanessa Hampton.
Hi.
And we missed old Roy Mangrum, who is always rushing around. And today we have a very special guest on the show, the Donald Miller.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
I've just realized you've been mispronouncing your name for your whole life.
Yeah,
I've known you for
That's a
years, and it's
shame.
always been Barga.
I was waiting for you to correct it.
Have you ever
Correct
heard
me on
him
my
say
name.
it? Have you ever heard him say it out loud?
No,
I
I've never heard him.
He told me, and I just wouldn't say it for a long time because I'm like that. I can't look at that and say that.
Barga.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
I've got a buddy.
Yeah.
I've got a buddy, Jeff Dobbins, and then he, like years into it, he goes Dobbins, and I'm like, oh no, you've been mispronouncing your name too. Let me correct you.
I think that's burned into my head from being in the third grade when I tried to correct a kid, and then it turned into a nickname, which turned into another nickname, and then
Well, Barge is
Yeah.
a better nickname than Barg, maybe.
yeah, I ended up being called root beer because Bart.
You got it.
It's like
That-
what?
So they called me
There-
root beer.
That's a kid's mind
Okay.
right there.
Yeah, I mean, I did. That was probably one of the better nicknames back in the day.
Can I call you Root Beer?
I'd rather you not, actually. No.
I mean,
Yeah, you can call me whatever you want.
okay, cool.
Don, we go way back.
We do.
Do you
Way back.
Do you remember moving
Actually-
to Nashville?
Oh yeah, sleeping under my desk. Did you know I lived in that office when I first moved here?
I think I did.
I slept on a yoga mat under my desk
I
in
did not
Nashville,
know that
Tennessee.
you were on a yoga mat. Though.
Yeah,
In what office? This y'all met at a.
he had a
Edge Hill Village.
yeah he had
Oh,
a
okay.
gym that was across the hallway from our office.
Yeah.
And
You needed the
I
shower.
kind of had a house. I just moved to town, and we were closing on a house, and so I was still like 30 days away. So I'm like, well, I have an office. I could just sleep under the desk in the office. This is
I'll sleep under
pre-marriage.
the desk and go take a shower at his gym
I
across
had
the
a, no, I had a shower.
It was a shower. So
I don't think he had a shower. I had a shower.
No, I did.
It was a weird building.
yeah, it was a weird building, and that's the context. We probably should lay that context out there. It was Edge Hill Village, so it was part live work on the
Oh,
backside.
okay.
So there was a couple of like studio apartments, which still felt very weird.
Ours wasn't a studio apartment.
Really?
But it had
No.
a shower?
No, it was I don't know what it was. It had it had a basketball hoop in it.
I do remember
like
that.
official
I do remember that.
NBA basketball hoop that made no sense.
Man,
And then we just went up in the loft, and that was our office, and there was a shower up there, but there was no like kitchen or bedroom. Or
that's
anything.
true. You didn't have a kitchen, so we had a full kitchen. We had a full kitchen, a full bathroom, and a full shower, which we would teach nutrition classes or do smoothies and whatnot. But literally, we're 20 feet away, our offices. Yeah, so those
Yeah.
were early days.
Yeah, that's how we met.
Was this was obviously after did you bike across the country?
This would have been after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
That's
trying to
Or
remember.
right
cool.
in there.
I was trying to remember that, 'cause
Right in there. Yeah.
I remember you talking to me about it, and we were working on your knees a little bit.
So it must have been.
Yeah.
It must have been right after.
And so
Yeah.
you biked from where to where?
L.A. to Delaware.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long did that take you?
7 weeks. You can do it a lot faster than that, but I would average like 90 miles and then take Sunday off. So, and then also we went from LA to Nashville and then ended up in Delaware. So we added about 700 miles to that stupid route. I mean, I sat there looking at the map. I wasn't in charge.
Clearly.
And I'm looking at the map going, we could be there in a week. I don't know why we're going north right now. Into the mountains, by the way. But it was a blast. We had a great time.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You're a well-traveled man.
Very
well-traveled
slowly
man.
traveled
Yeah,
man.
well, slow. Both things are true. So originally from Pacific Northwest, yeah.
Well, grew up in Houston, Texas, and moved to Portland when I was 21 and spent 20 years in Portland, Oregon.
I just remember that you're a hardcore Seahawks fan, and I need a hot take.
Seahawks and Ducks.
The Seahawks gonna go all the way?
Seahawks could do it all. They got a Thursday night football game coming up against the Rams.
Yeah.
That's the test.
What do you think?
Well, Darnold threw 4 interceptions the last time they played the Rams, and they missed a field goal to win the game. So I think the Seahawks are actually a better team if we can keep the ball on our side of the field.
Let's go.
Or on our side of the breakdown. But
I'm cheering for
Sam. I think the Ducks will possibly beat James Madison University, and then that's probably it. Texas Tech is a buzzsaw.
Yeah.
They could win it all.
Yeah.
And the Ducks could surprise you. But so my teams, it's nice when you have your teams that are doing well.
Yeah. What I wonder what that feels like. I'm a fan of Ohio.
Are you a
teams.
Titans fan? Or?
No, it's not much better, but Cincinnati Bengals. I'm from Dayton, Ohio, so there's that.
Well, if you can get healthy, my goodness.
Yeah, there's that. I don't even want to talk about it. Actually, let's keep moving.
It's better than being a Browns fan.
I always say that. You look at it, it's like, well,
the bright side.
Got the right side of Cleveland.
Sorry, listeners.
Right side of
if you're
Ohio.
Browns listeners out there, I always look at the thing and I'm like, well, at least we're not as bad as the Browns. So moving on. Well, you're not here to talk about football as much as we can have some fun doing that. You've done so much stuff, and I've been fortunate to be a part. I remember being a part of the StoryBrand initial workshop there. I definitely felt like a fish out of water. You were very kind to me in the early days. Still very kind to me in that sense. I remember sitting in that workshop being like, oh, these guys really know business. I'm brand new. I should probably write all this down. But we went through the StoryBrand stuff, and it was really, really cool. And that's part of what you've, that's just a tiny little bit of what you've been able to achieve. So tell everybody what you're doing now. I know you've Business Made Simple. I know we got StoryBrand.ai.
Yeah.
Give us
StoryBrand is the mothership company. There's some other efforts under that, but StoryBrand helps people clarify their message. Really what we do is we help people distill their main brand offer into sound bites, and then we have lots of systems and methodologies for disseminating those sound bites in a marketing campaign. Mm-hmm. But the sound bites are the foundation. Your sound bites need to distill an offer, and that offer needs to be crystal clear. I call it zero cognitive load. If anybody has to try to figure out what you're saying, you're going to lose a lot of money.
Right.
So your offer has to be super, super simple. Try not to make it clever or sophisticated. And then we say, okay, well, where do we put this offer? Do we put it in the header on the website, landing pages, lead generators, emails, text messages, all the normal stuff, advertising copy, product descriptions. So we'll take a look at an entire, business. And once we get their sound bites down, we'll start either recommending that they make these changes to these specific places in their marketing, or we'll recommend that they just overhaul the whole thing. And we have hundreds of StoryBrand certified guides, marketing agents who are trained by us to be able to do that. Yeah. So that's the basic business model that I'm involved in now. But what I get to do after years of writing memoirs and books, I get to help other people be heard. And because I spent so much time looking at a blinking cursor writing books, my subconscious, I guess, got really good at saying it very, very clearly.
Not
and
bad.
So when people, tell me what they do, what people don't understand about writing books is it's 10% writing, 90% editing.
Yes.
And so when somebody says, here's what I do, I'm editing them as they speak and trying to improve how they could say that in order to get more engagement. And that skill unknowingly would turn into a whole second career, which I very much enjoyed.
That's the transition I kind of wanted to talk about. And we don't have to spend a bunch of time here, but I got to know you. This is actually probably, you don't even know this, but my good buddy Ian White, Safe House Tattoos, also had a shop across the way from us. And he's a great tattoo artist, longtime friend, introduced me to Blue Like Jazz. So that's my, you got to check out Donna Mill. You got to read the book. It was so good. It helped me so much. I didn't read the book, but I did see the movie.
The book is better than the movie. A lot better.
But that was the first that I knew of you. And I was wondering what that transition was like. Like, how did you go from, being a author in that sense to when am I making that pivot? Because that was quite a pivot.
Well, I'd love to know too, how long you've been an author to frame that.
Gosh, I'm 54. So my first book came out, I think, when I was 27.
Okay.
So about 26 years. I think the math is not accurate on that. I was told there'd be no math on this podcast.
There's no math. We'll edit that out.
No, none of us are figuring out if that's
They
wrong.
actually say never do math on a podcast. Don't go there. But so the book didn't sell much, many copies, called Prairie and the Art of Volkswagen Maintenance. And then Blue Like Jazz came out about 3 years later. And that book ended up on the New York Times and spent a lot of time there. So all of a sudden, I had a writing career. I was in publishing before that. I was the president of a publishing company, a very small publishing company, but it was growing. So I was in business before I ever wrote a book. And it was a publishing business. So I was watching all these authors, dealing with these authors, signing contracts, helping them figure out when their manuscript could be due. And I just kind of watched that and thought, these are smart folks, but I think I could write a book like a lot of ignorant people think they can do. And,
so you never had aspirations to do it before?
No, I did. I did. In high school, I wrote down that I wanted to be a New York Times bestselling author and had no reason to write that down. I have no idea why I wrote that down. But that was my ambition, and I think it got planted in my subconscious. So when I got a job in publishing, that felt like moving toward writing books and then watching people write books. And then at night, I'd go home and I wrote a book, and that book got a contract, which is a heck of an accomplishment for a young man. And it didn't sell well, which is a heck of a normal route for a young man, and decided to take a risk and write another one. And that one, I think it's a good book, but there's a lot of good books out there. Sure. So I also got lucky. Kind of won the lottery on that. And then wrote, when you have a book that sells that many copies, the publisher wants another one.
I bet.
And then they want another one. And those books did okay. They didn't do as well as Blue Like Jazz. But after about 7 more memoirs, I just ran out of things to say. And I'd been studying story and story structure in order to write a screenplay and to write books. So I really understood story pretty well. And a company called Accenture, a giant consulting firm, called and said, "Hey, we know you're studying story and story structure. Have you ever applied that to project management?" And I just thought, what in the world are you talking about? I said, well, come to Chicago. We'll talk to you about something. So we developed this project management system based on narrative structures with a guy there whose job was to kind of experiment with stuff. Mm-hmm. And that introduced me to, now I'd already been the president of a publishing company, so I understood business, but it introduced me to business education and development. And I actually thought, as good as this is, it would work much better as a marketing framework than a project management framework, and began to lead small groups and little mini free workshops for people to help them filter their marketing message. And that became Building a StoryBrand, the next book. And that was the pivot. So it was really it was all, to me, it seems like a complete pivot, to use your language, but really was actually a progression that got me from writing memoirs to studying story and story structure to using story kind of as a cordless screwdriver and just changing out the bit.
Sure.
We're not going to use it to write screenplays. We're going to use it to create a marketing message. Yeah. That was probably the big pivot, but to me, that was just a creative
layering
continuation. Yeah. And then also when we started meeting with those very early businesses, some universities, some nonprofit entities, when we clarified their message and changed the language they were using on their websites, we would see 100% increases in business.
Oh, wow.
So we saw dramatic results for incredible. Early, including my company. I think we saw a 400% increase.
Wow.
I remember working with a guy who ran a dairy, and we saw a 400% increase in the amount of milk he sold.
How is that tracked?
And most of it's anecdotal. I mean, they came to us,
you're just watching
these were our numbers, and you
growth.
guys won't believe it. Our orders are up by 400% immediately. That's not the most common story, but it is extremely uncommon that nothing happens.
Powerful.
Yeah. So that I realized, okay, this is a book. The publisher confessed to me recently, that book's been out 8 years. They confessed to me recently that they went ahead and published that book so that I would wake up and go back and write more memoirs. They expected it to sell 0 copies.
Is it difficult to write a book on demand when the publishers are wanting more
No,
books?
It's not difficult to write a book. I love writing. It's difficult to write a book that on a topic that you're not just thinking about.
Right.
Like if you said, Don, I want you to write a book on, the history of Rhode Island. I mean, I'm like, okay, where's Rhode Island?
Okay. No passion whatsoever about that.
Nothing against Rhode Island, but you get your mind. The way I work is I get my mind thinking about something, And then it's like, you know what, I think this could become a book if I come at it from this angle. And then from that point on, you're actually trying to figure out a puzzle. Writing a book is just figuring out a puzzle. That's all it is. You're trying to work your way out of
put that information together. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're trying to say, okay, what's the controlling idea, and that sort of thing. So like the book that I'm about to sign a contract on is called Your Living Archetype. And the puzzle is, there's a guy who wrote a book called The 7 Basic Plots. And he argues, his name is Christopher Booker. It took him 34 years to write his book.
Wow.
Imagine being the publisher waiting for that one.
Yeah.
Just a little annoyed, yeah.
But he argues there's only 7 stories that work, that human beings are only attracted to one of 7 stories. And they are very, very formulaic. This has to happen in this and this. And my argument is like, well, what if there's only 7 personalities? And each of them think of themselves as a hero in that story. So when I started analyzing it, I am without question in a rags to riches story. I believe I'm a hero in a rags to riches story. So when I see that story on the screen, I identify with it. Somebody else may be Conquer the Monster or Out and Back Again or Quest and Return. You know, these stories have names. And so the idea that I took to the publisher was, I think I'm going to write a book arguing there's only 7 personalities, and they each think, aren't really in one, but think they are in a story in which they have to accomplish this specific thing. And they are afraid. These 7 personalities are all afraid. If you're a Conquer the Monster, you're afraid of this same thing that another Conquer the Monster hero is. So you've got to figure out what story we're all in.
I want to dive in on that. Let's do that. We'll come back from this break, and I want to know more about that. So
At Optimize You, we believe that normal is not optimal. Whether you've been dabbling in hormones or this is your first time and you want to know where to get started, we make the hormone optimization process very simple. Simply get started with comprehensive labs, and our providers will take it from there with you to review where you are right now and where you want to be to ultimately help you achieve your health and performance-related goals. So from our expertise in hormones, peptides, all the way to recovery services, we want you feeling at your optimized best so that you ultimately feel better physically, mentally, and sexually. Just like hormones playing a significant role in the overall optimization of your health, so do recovery services help your body on a cellular level. From our sensory lounge to our infrared sauna, full body red light, full body cryotherapy, cold plunge, we have a wide range of performance recovery services just for you.
all right, well, you've put yourself in the spot. Like, you got to analyze this on the spot. No.
I'll be better at that in a couple of years.
So what are you, just out of curiosity, what are you basing the archetypes on? Is it all of different information that you've derived over time of different
disc
personality?
Test.
Okay.
Yeah, Myers-Briggs, kind of laying all that stuff over and saying, you know, Enneagram has 9, so I could use 7.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to combine some of those. But the difference between this book and Enneagram or disc assessments or any of that is that it's less about how you are wired and more about the story that you think you are in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think you're in a certain story, you're going to look like you're wired a certain way, but you're actually responding to your view of the universe. So a rags to riches story is, you know, fairly common in movies, but it's a story about somebody who's poor and becomes wealthy, or somebody who's losing and you know, becomes a winner. And there's no question that we grew up very, very poor. Dad split when I was a kid, and I was sort of envious of people who lived on the other side of the railroad tracks. And in my town, what's hilarious is the railroad tracks were literally 2 blocks away. On the other side of the railroad tracks were wealthy people. So I mean that literally.
Literally.
People on the other side of the tracks. And, you know, and then Dad left and never even bothered checking up on me and my sister. And so there was this chip on my shoulder of you know, no, I'm going to actually prove that you're saying to me I'm a nobody and not worth paying attention to, and I'm going to prove to you that you're wrong. That, of course, was not remotely accurate. You know, my dad had issues of his own, and I think it broke his heart to not be in touch with us, and there's grace for him. But that doesn't change the fact that that's how I'm interpreting
That was your script.
my narrative.
Yeah.
Right.
And when people say, Don, why have you been so successful? I'm like, do you want to know how? Or do you want to know why? Because there's a formula for why. And they're like, well, I want to know why. Okay, well, go back in time, make sure your dad leaves.
Suffer hard times. Take a blow to your ego.
Get rejected by the homecoming queen. Like, are you writing this down or not?
Why isn't your pen moving? I don't see it.
Like, good luck actually fabricating that one in your life.
That's true.
But I think there's enough people out there who that sort of thing has happened to, that you've got a wide swath of people in the Conquer the Monster story. Mm-hmm. If you look at, in the Rags to Riches story, if you look at the Conquer the Monster story, the hero in the Conquer the Monster story would be sort of the Dragon Slayer. And if you want to understand Donald Trump, Mother Teresa, Winston Churchill, Adolf Hitler, they are all in Slay the Dragon stories. They believe that there are villains out there who are trying to get them, and they are going to kill those villains before those villains can kill them. And that is a very, very useful archetype if you are going up against Adolf Hitler.
That's
not
true.
Quite so
very
useful true. If the enemies aren't actually dragons. You just think they are.
Right.
So you can get into a lot of trouble and
kicking up dust where there is no dust.
Kicking up. Well, the thing is, like, you can see it a little bit with somebody like Donald Trump, who has useful characteristics for being president. But you open that toolbox and it's just a hammer. It's literally nothing else. So if you need somebody who knows how to use a hammer, that's your boy.
Yeah, that's right.
But if you need, like, I don't know, a cordless screwdriver, you're screwed.
Yep.
Literally screwed.
Literally screwed.
So when you're writing in the characters in your stories, do you think of them in terms of what you're talking about, of these different archetypes of...
Well, it's interesting. A misnomer about me, I'm introduced often as one of the world's greatest storytellers. And I have never told a story, nor have I ever written fiction. I study stories.
It's just
and I explain how they work, and I apply them in different... But I have never written a piece of fiction. Now, I have anecdotal stories in all my books, so in some ways, I guess I'm a storyteller. And I tell stories when I'm speaking, but I would not classify me as anywhere near the world's greatest storyteller, nor have I ever tried to be. I think that's very offensive to people who tell stories and do so really well. But what I can tell you, like a very annoying human being, is why their story didn't work after they did all the work to try to tell it. I can tell you that all day long.
And quickly.
And quickly. And very arrogantly, as though I could do it myself when I cannot. So that's basically, you want to think of me as like an ESPN commentator compared to a football player. It's like, one of them actually has skills. The other one clearly does not.
Oh my goodness.
But you are right in the sense that both when analyzing stories, I will think, first of all, I will later today I have a daddy-daughter date. I'm taking my daughter to see How the Grinch Stole Christmas after I pick her up from kindergarten, and that will be either a fish out of water story or there's some, and I will recognize that very early, and you can. If you know the stories, you can predict with a fair amount of confidence what is going to happen in this story, because they are literally extremely formulaic. You don't realize it when you're watching it because it's a different character with a different conflict, with a different ticking time bomb, with a different, midpoint climax and all that kind of stuff. But the structure is all there, and you can predict pretty quickly what's going to happen. Yeah,
I've enjoyed. So I do a fair amount of consulting and coaching of, entrepreneurs in the wellness space. And I've enjoyed using the StoryBrand method to help them understand their own story, which it's been really helpful for them, much like you were really helpful for me. Yeah. Like that whole concept of being able to cut through that and understand it simply and, in a format that is easy to latch on, it really works well for an entrepreneur who's moving very quickly.
Yeah.
Who often doesn't even think about this stuff. We're either in sales mode or deliver mode, right?
Right.
So that middle ground has been pretty wonderful. But I wonder, in your years of experience working with folks, like what's the common thread as when you're listening and talking to entrepreneurs? There's just a two-sided question. Like, what is the wall that they're hitting before they come to you? Mm-hmm. And then where are they at? As a leader emotionally in those moments?
Those are two good questions. I mean, when they come to me, the reason they come to me is because they're having trouble explaining their offer for their brand, for a specific product or a product launch. I work with national security on communicating with Congress, and those congressional hearings go on for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and they should probably go on for days.
Right.
And it's because there's just so much institutional knowledge that's having to transfer from one mind to another that it's not happening with any kind of efficiency. So we look at what their offer is, what their objectives are, what their vision is, and we say, how do we make this as clear as humanly possible so that we can affect change or buy-in or orders or votes quickly,
right?
And not risk that the objectives won't be met, that people aren't going to place orders, or they're not going to give congressional authorization to this budget or whatever it is. So we look at that and just say how, and it's always the same, Terry. It's always you're at on a scale of 1 to 100. When I read words in an offer in marketing collateral, I weigh them, and heavy words don't work. So what I mean by that is, like, if we're going to try to pitch this offer, we need to do it in as close to a zero cognitive load as possible. I remember going and visiting the Jeb Bush campaign. They asked me to come in and, just as somebody to share their opinion. And I don't even think they really wanted to see me, but somebody told them to bring me in. So they saw me. And Jeb was my guy. Yeah. I mean, he did a great job in Florida. Very, 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 very intelligent human being, scholar. And he'd written a book on education and a book on immigration, and he got beat by a guy who said build a wall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And one is zero cognitive load. The other is actually a very nuanced perspective on a complicated problem. But who got elected? So we always say, if you make people think, you're going to lose. Yeah. And now here's the temptation. The temptation is, especially for an entrepreneur who has a really good product, a really good idea, the temptation is to demonstrate, even if it's a subconscious demonstration, to demonstrate how intelligent you are. And so you are automatically going to be tempted to speak over people's heads, use language they don't understand, and you think you're coming off as smart, but nobody thinks that when they listen to you. What they think is that they are stupid. So all you're doing is making your customer feel stupid. And if your customer feels stupid, they're going to walk out the door and they're not going to come back.
For sure.
And they don't even know why. They just feel slightly threatened by this and couldn't really understand where that guy was going. But this guy down the street wants to build a wall. Let's go there.
Yeah.
Seems simple.
Let's go there. And so what I really enjoy doing is taking those very, very intelligent entrepreneurs and helping them translate their knowledge into zero cognitive load statements that get repeated and that get buy-in and engagement. So when we talk about seeing 100, 200, 300% increases in business, there was one company that they sold fish aquariums and fish food. Tetris is the name of the company, owned by Spectrum Brands. They called me and we went down to Florida and met with their team. A lot of them from England. And we talked about how do we increase sales of aquariums and fish food and all that kind of stuff at PetSmart and Petco. So if I'm not mistaken, they were doing like $99 million in business in that sector. They dominated it. But their problem was they weren't selling to families. They were selling to hobbyists. But all these families are coming into PetSmart and Petco. But they're not. They're leaving with a bunny or a dog or a cat. They're not leaving with a fish. And so at the end of the day, we just said, hey, what if we put kids love aquariums on everything? Like repeated 1,000 times, just 3 words, kids love aquariums. Well, Don, we'll A/B test that. We'll look at it. We'll analyze them. And this is the problem. When people get paid a lot of money, the solution is not allowed to be easy.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Because you're paying them a lot of money, and so they got to make it really complicated in order to earn their dollars. And I'm like, no, you don't have to make kids love aquariums. Well, why do you think that will work? Because kids love aquariums. That's it. That's
and
it.
All the
Don't
overthink as a reminder.
You're literally overthinking it.
Yeah, you're overthinking it. And they did a test market and put kids love aquariums on everything and saw a 99% increase in in orders, which is $100 million increase in orders.
That's ridiculous.
By just reducing the offer to 3 words. Kids love aquariums. It's memorable, it's repeatable, it's zero cognitive load. You understand it as soon as you hear it. You can respond to it on the gut level. Father walks into a shop, he's got his kids there, he doesn't want to buy a bunny, it poops everywhere. He's like, well, kids love aquariums, and just buys it, doesn't know why he's buying it. The reason he's buying it is because kids love aquariums, spend about $250 on the aquarium and everything. It makes complete sense to me why that would work, right? So, that's the sort of thing that we're looking for. What is the zero cognitive load message?
I literally just rewrote my message. Listen to you say that right there. That's
well,
awesome.
I do a video. I send it out every week on a campaign, a historical campaign, or a campaign that I've worked on that has been very, very successful. And one of the ones that I just wrote it, and we'll shoot it next week, is about a guy named O'Doyle turning around Domino's Pizza.
Okay.
And Domino's Pizza was plummeting. I mean, their stock price was $3.
I remember this.
They were down significantly, hemorrhaging money. And O'Doyle was in the house. He was on the team, which is strange that you would promote somebody from within. But he ended up, when they gave him the reins, he ended up being an absolute genius.
Yeah.
And his soundbite, his message was, our pizza is awful, but we fixed it.
I remember this because he went on they did an actual.
He spent $75 million.
There was a marketing campaign on this. Yes.
He spent $75 million telling the world
that's right,
that their pizza is awful and we're really sorry, but we fixed it.
Which is so
They fixed it
genius.
with garlic butter on the crust and a new tomato sauce.
And everybody wants to find out if he
ingredients.
fixed it.
Well, you got
Exactly.
to pay $10 to find out if
That's
it's
right.
true.
That's incredible.
And they exploded.
Yep.
They exploded. They became the fastest growing franchise. And by the way, it was brutal honesty. Like he would actually put pictures of awful pizza taken by customers on his commercials.
Yep.
And he would say, this doesn't happen anymore, by the way. We're really sorry. It tastes really good. And
you diffuse
$1 billion
people
later
immediately like that. You diffuse all of the haters
them,
like
and
that.
also it's like they know you're not lying.
Yeah.
And there's something about, so those are the sort of campaigns that we help people create and execute.
I have a comparison that I'm going to make it right after this break because I think it's funny. You might shoot it down, but stay tuned. There's a hook for you.
If you're a wellness or fitness pro looking for a space that truly fits the way you work, check out B2 Wellness Suites. With locations in Brentwood and Mount Juliet, B2 offers private suites, shared offices, and day rentals, all in a calm, welcoming environment designed for our industry. But it's more than just a space. It's a community of like-minded professionals who support, inspire, and grow together. Learn more at b2suites.com.
All right, the parallel.
Yeah.
Marshall Mathers,
Okay.
Eminem.
Yeah.
Seen the movie 8 Mile?
Yeah.
Been a minute.
Okay, well, how did he win the rap battle? Brutal honesty.
He owned it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
He did.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's leading with humility.
It's leading with fixing the product.
Yeah. Own what you can own.
And then you come back and you say, hey, we're not fooling anybody here.
Yeah.
We know we're bad. Very similar. I did another study on Kurt Signetti at Indiana football. And he had been at this is weird. He had been at Indiana University, Pennsylvania. No relation to the state of Indiana. It's a city in Pennsylvania called Indiana. And he turned around that program. Then he went to James Madison, I think that program went from 211 to 625 in terms of winning percentages. And then he went to James Madison and took him to national championships. And then Indiana called. But a very similar approach to the Domino's Pizza Rolls. And he did it 3 times. He did it with 3 different football programs. Where you go in and you say, this is awful. You're a bunch of losers. This is a losing culture. We're not going to pretend it's not. And here's the deal. Losing sucks. And we're going to turn this thing around.
We don't want to
create
do that
a winning
anymore.
culture. And if you don't believe me, get out of the building.
Yeah.
And now think of the excuses you could make. if you said we're going to turn Indiana football into the number one program in the country, which it is right now, out of 100 people in the room, 99 of them would have said completely impossible, and here's why. We're in the middle of nowhere. It's really cold here. We don't have any money. We don't have a fan base. We're a basketball school, on and on. But he literally used a soundbite strategy, repeating the exact same sound bites over and over and over and over and over and over until the people believed. And then now they're number one, and they're, I don't know if they're going to win a national championship, but my gosh, that's the time of this recording. They just beat Ohio State.
Easy.
Yeah. So
it hurts a little still.
They beat my Ducks. Try not to be hurt by that, but you got to be a fan of that guy.
That's cool. Yeah.
And he's got that youthful, as a side note, that youthful arrogance that you have in your 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're just looking at that kid and you're going, boy, life's about to kick you in the butt.
Oh, yeah.
But he's 50. And I'm like, why do I like this guy so much?
How do I tap into that energy?
Yeah, I have no idea.
How
But
do I get that?
it's so bad that it's charming,
Oh, my gosh. So the psychology there, like.
Well, the psychology is if you want to invite people into something, invite them to buy something, or invite them to believe what you believe, or change the culture, you have to have the offer.
Sure.
But then you have to distill it into sound bites.
Yeah.
Because for me to get my thoughts into your head, they've got to be relatively simple. I always say, I have a business strategy that I can outline on a whiteboard on how we are going to grow my business, StoryBrand.
Yeah.
And it takes about 3 minutes to draw it on a whiteboard, and it's got several components to it, moving parts. And I thought the old Donald Miller leader would have written that on the whiteboard, have my leadership team look at it, let me explain it, and we're off to the races.
Sure.
The new Donald Miller understands that every time I write it, my leadership team understands 5% more of it. So if I do it once, they get 5% of this vision, even though I wrote down 100% of the vision and explained it.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to repeat your vision over and over and over with as low a cognitive load as possible. Otherwise, people really won't get it.
That's funny you mentioned that, because I put that in my book, that the hardest part about leading is constantly finding a new way to get people to engage in the vision.
Yes.
Right? Because you will lose. I've had trainers come to me in the past, like, because I've always been a vision thinker when it comes to even a gym, right? They come to me like, well, I just don't know what the vision is, or why am I here?
Right.
I'm like, I really feel like we just had this conversation 2 months ago.
Yep.
Well, that's not enough.
Yeah. No,
That's
you're
not
absolutely right. But in that 2 months, you should have had it 8 more times.
Right.
And that's really hard for a leader, because they feel self-conscious about the fact that they keep repeating themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But once you understand that every time you say it, they're getting about 5% more, then now it's a mandate.
Right.
You have to repeat yourself. And if you can make it visual, you should make it visual. If you can repeat the sound bites, you should repeat the sound bites. Yeah. But what I've seen is I've done that. Our surveys came out. We do an anonymous third-party survey every year with my business, and all my employees answer, a long, intense series of questions, and they can say whatever they want, and they'll never get found out because I don't know who said what. And then AI kind of turns that into universal criticism of the leader.
Lovely.
And that is the most painful thing I have to endure every year, and every year it is the most powerful thing because you respond to that. And one of the things was we feel like we've got 4 or 5 directions that we're heading, and we're not sure which one is the priority. And so what I did was then took some of those businesses off the books, put them in separate books, hired a new CEO, got a new controller, and I no longer talked to each team about the other team. That was one thing I learned. And then the other thing I learned was if they don't understand the vision, that's 100% the leader. I mean, I'm clearly not explaining this well enough.
Yeah.
And so since then I've repeated that vision. I asked the president of my company, I turned around and said, how many times have you seen me draw on this? And he goes, it's got to be the 10th. And it's like, okay, we're getting there.
Well, and when you think of it from a standpoint of they understand 5% more every time you repeat it, then it goes from your mindset of, well, nobody's on board with me or nobody's buying into this to this is function. This is function of getting it out of your brain and getting it to stick in somebody's head.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, that's
so we project our buy-in on the people around us without realizing that they haven't bought in at all. They don't even know what to buy into.
Exactly.
For me, when a vision is forming, it's kind of the same process. I go through it in my head, and every time I go through it in my head, I probably get 5% more clarity on what I'm doing. So it's
So you've gone through it in your head 1,000 times. They've gone through it once.
Right.
And that's the issue.
That's a great
But the other thing is we should have a lot of compassion for people who work for a leader who won't repeat it, because the cognitive dissonance of working in that environment must be excruciatingly painful. I kind of know where we're going. I'm not exactly sure. He seems to change a lot.
Well, and that's what it appears, especially when as an entrepreneur, we've experienced that a lot. We've got a lot of different directions that all the pieces in my head are connected, but what they're seeing is several different things. So
they're seeing that you're doing too much.
Right.
How many times I get told that you're doing too much? It's like, no, you have to understand. It's all connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the tricky part. But you're in my head. Like, I'm over here thinking, goodness, I got to do more repeating of this vision.
Absolutely. And you got to go to the whiteboard and draw it out. Here's what we're doing.
Which I love to do, as you can see.
Yeah.
You guys can't
we're
see
all
this.
whiteboard addicts.
Well, and then on that same token, obviously when you're talking to clients and customers, you're simplifying that message, and you want that. How much more in depth do you go to your team?
Oh, it's a lot more in depth. You're giving 1% to the customer.
But when you go in depth to your team, how much is too much on that, in your opinion?
I think the team needs to understand the overall. The way I do it, I've got the diagram on the board. We call it the factory floor. Here's how we make money. We go onto YouTube. We go onto podcasts like this. We mention weeklysoundbite.com. Mm-hmm. People sign up for weeklysoundbite.com. They get a weekly video, and at the end of that video, it says, "Hey, you can hire a StoryBrand guide to make a campaign like this." That's our whole. And then we charge the StoryBrand guides to be in the community. So that's our whole business model right there. Mm-hmm. But when you actually look at that, well, how do you get people to sign up weeklysoundbite.com? Well, there's a landing page there. Well, you got to make a video every week. Well, you got a media team involved. I share the entire vision, and then I've got 4 whiteboards in our war room. We actually have 7 whiteboards in the war room, but 4 of them have spreadsheets on them. They're permanent spreadsheets. And each spreadsheet has 30 projects that we can track into 16 steps.
Wow.
So what I do is I bring the media team in and I say, hey, we're going to film these weekly soundbite videos, and people are going to sign up at weeklysoundbite.com. We're going to send them out. We're going to do one on the coach at Indiana. We're going to do one on Domino's Pizza. We're going to do one on Gwyneth Paltrow, blah, blah. And then we explain to AI everything we want to do, and we ask AI, break that down into 16 steps. We label it on the board. And every time one of those steps is done, we put a pin in it.
Well, that's fun.
And now we're tracking 120 separate projects that all fit on the same factory floor. And every pin color is a person who works for my company.
Oh, wow.
So when they stick that pin on that little square, I look at that board at the end of the year and I go, there's a lot of purple on there. I think Terry needs a raise.
Yes.
And you know what? There's no green. There's no green. So, Jason over here, his days are probably numbered. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem to be a very important part of this process. So the whole thing just becomes a light bright thing. Mm-hmm. And it's also gamified. Like, people want their color on the board.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
Efficiency increases, by 10,000% when you make it visual.
Right.
Yeah, clear motivation.
Yeah, and clear understanding of, like, here's what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Here's the next step. This is what's important to the leader. It's all on a scoreboard. It's all visual. They don't feel micromanaged at all. Instead, they feel like, okay, they know what they're supposed to be doing, and they've actually participated in deciding what needs to be done, and they've agreed to this. And so,
how many people do you have on your team? How many people work for you?
There's 38 on the team, and then 1,000 in our certified community.
And then how often, what is your meeting schedule with getting together with your team? Do y'all have a set schedule where you're meeting every Monday?
Yeah, we try to factory floor it as much as possible. So we've got a Monday all staff meeting. Then we've got what's called the Brain Trust meeting, which is the leadership meeting, is right after that. We record podcasts on a certain day each week. We record we batch record those weekly soundbite series videos. So we try to create a factory floor as much as possible. So the more that every week can look exactly the same, the more productivity you're going to have as a team. Everybody knows on Tuesday morning we do this and we're all ready for it.
Yeah, the only way you forget that is if you're just
go out of town,
mentally not there.
Yeah.
And all these, in all the businesses that you've worked with on clarifying a message, it's got to be one that's been either your favorite or the one you're the most proud of. Is that something that you want to, you can talk about?
There's so many. I mean, I obviously national defense is a big deal, and it was an honor to be invited into that. I've gone there a couple times. They actually come here to my house because it's a lot easier it's very hard to get me in the building in some of those places. And every time I'm in the building, I've got to be tracked by 2 people who literally go to the bathroom with me.
Now, for our entrepreneurs, how did you manage? Was that the correct contacts? Did you pursue that, or how did that come about for you?
No, somebody at National Defense read or National Security read Building a StoryBrand, and they realized they have a learning and development system inside of the NSA that trains executives. And so they thought, well, our executives, we should give them a tool on how to communicate better. There's 600 executives at NSA. And so they were like, hey, Don, can we license your material, and can you come in and help us figure out how to train our executives if they want to be trained in it? And I did, and we did that several times. And then the person who was in charge of that moved over to China policy. And so then I got a call saying, hey, we need more than just you helping us communicate. We actually need to know how to talk about, distill some very complicated messages. And so they had me read a stack of books about Xi Jinping and the South China Sea and all that's happening in Asia and, the Communist Party and all that kind of stuff. And so, and then go in and say, okay, how do we summarize this? We've got Americans signing up for TikTok, which there's a very, very good chance that's just a data mining organization for our enemy to find out more about our public and also promote the algorithms that make us stupid while they become smart. That's exactly what's happening on TikTok.
Wow. And
how do we tell that to the public without sounding like we're against little kids dancing? I think my perspective on that is it backfires on them. That little kids dancing is kind of fun, and Chinese people aren't allowed to have fun, and it just makes freedom look pretty darn good. But so there's downsides and upsides to all that, and Xi Jinping is not our friend, and so how do we explain it to the public? How do we, if there's a new member of Congress coming in there, how do we quickly on-ramp them to, the dangers here? How do we get the Pentagon mobilized around that? So that's how that happened. It was largely by accident. And then from there, we were literally in a meeting with the comms team, and I was kind of training the comms team, and I thought it was going to be a 1-hour meeting because it was very secretive of what I was going to be doing that day. And it ended up being like a 4-hour meeting. And so I said, well, let's just as an exercise rebrand the entire NSA. You're saying
this guy.
You're saying
because why not?
Protect our freedom, defend the future, that could be the Marines, that could be the executive branch, that could be anybody. That's a very, very vague. So we came up with intelligence means victory, and that the actual executive director of the NSA came up with that. We came up with something. I think intelligence prepares us to win was my motto, and he came back and said, well, let's just skip the prepared part. It just means winning.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very smart of him. But anyway, we spent time diagramming the entire campaign. We're going to do a mini book, explains the 8 functions of the NSA so Congress could understand very quickly, so that employees could take it home and hand it to their families and help them understand. None of it behind the security clearance. This is all stuff that they want America to know, which is why I get to repeat it on a podcast, because they're just like, yeah, we want people to understand what the NSA does and what they don't do, because people think that they spy on American citizens, which they don't. And, it's very constitutional. And upright and all that stuff. They want people to know about the threats. Anyway, I happened to have a meeting with the executive director later that day, our very first meeting. And I said, well, we've done this exercise. Do you guys like this messaging? And they were like, we really like this messaging. It would heal a lot of wounds here. And I'm stupid enough to say, do you want to pitch it? Because I'm in the meeting with them later today. Went in there and they liked it. So that's how Forrest Gump gets to have a good consulting gig, I guess. It was all very, very accidental and
opportunistic. Because you did.
Opportunistic.
Like, give me a second. Let me do this right now. Yeah.
Opportunistic a little bit, but more than that, more than just opportunistic. The reality that, hey, if we use this language, the country's going to be a lot safer.
Yeah. And
people are going to buy in. You're going to get more money. You're going to get better partnership with the Pentagon. You're going to get all that kind of stuff. So, I as a messaging guy, I think you should move on this. Mm-hmm. And of course, they agreed. And but that's it. I get to play with words that the people at the NSA. Let me tell you something. We're in very good hands. They are very, very intelligent.
That's cool.
I mean, I'm dumbest guy in the room every time I walk into a room. It's really nice. Nice to know that. Glad you guys are doing that.
Well, I want to get into we're going to do this right after the break, but I want to get into where you think your finger on the pulse of where marketing is going and clarification and kind of tie all this stuff together. So we'll do that right after this quick break. All right, we've covered a lot of fun stuff, and I've been having a blast. I keep talking about this stuff forever. In your opinion, with what you know about, historically speaking, and clarifying message and understanding what works in marketing, two big questions for you. One, what's the future look like as far as you can tell? And then two, how do people engage that right now?
Yeah. I think the foundation isn't going to change at all. What will work in marketing has worked for 1,000 years and it's going to continue to work for the next 1,000 years. It's just very, very hard to do. And so I think I've got some job security there.
Sure.
But what you've got to do is you've got to distill your offer into very, very short, memorable, repeatable, zero cognitive load sound bites. And the problem is you're so close to it that you think you're speaking at 0 and you're speaking at 50. And that is true of every single client. The closer you are to your product, the harder it is to sell, because you know it so well that you can't actually figure out the offer from a customer's perspective, because you're talking about the nanotechnology inside rather than the fact that it's just going to relieve dandruff. That's that sort of thing. Yeah. So that's why I think I've got some job security, and my StoryBrand certified guides have job security, because they can walk in the room. We train them to just zero cognitive load, and they'll show me their messaging. I'm like, hey man, that's really, really good, but it's at 10. Mm-hmm. Like if you say it this way, it'd be at 0. And so I think other marketing agents start at 50. I mean, you will literally pay them to turn customers off.
Well, and I think it's what you said earlier. It's that you think that you have to overcomplicate it. Will you over deliver on a bunch of tomfoolery that's not? It's fluff. It's not actually helpful.
Yeah. So I think that nothing changes there. AI is going to handle a lot more of this stuff in the very near future and even now. But if you don't tell AI those sound bites, AI will do the same, make the same mistake everybody else is making. So I do think that all of that is changing very, very quickly. But I think the methodology is changing. Should you be on Instagram? Should you be running meta ads? Should you be on billboards, all that kind of stuff? That's going to change really quickly. I think it's going to get a lot easier to be efficient. It's going to be a lot easier to go, well, here's my target market.
Yeah.
This is who I want to talk to. This is who I want to say. This is what I want to say to them. And then you just hit a button and it's going to do that for you. But if you if you get those sound bites wrong, it's not going to be very effective anyway. And for whatever reason, AI makes the same mistake humans make, and that they get cute and clever, and they're not clear.
Right.
And so I'm always saying to AI, I explain what zero cognitive load is, and I said, make this zero cognitive load.
Right.
I
it'll finally do it.
always tell ChatGPT, simplify.
Yep.
Simplify. Because it's like...
She usually uses an expletive too, but that's,
Ow! Not really. I don't know.
I'm teasing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
the
the
other thing
simplify. Yeah.
I think the strategy is going to change every month.
Mm-hmm.
And so, even though AI is supposed to be doing our marketing for us at a dime on the dollar, nobody listening to me is actually taking advantage of any of it because it changes every month. So it's going to be very important that you actually pay somebody who can stay very, very up to date on trends. I mean, I could handle my own social media. I know how to put a camera in my face, talk, and then put it on Instagram. I know how to do that. I pay somebody $65,000 a year to do it because they're constantly knowing, okay, well, this is the music that we need to use, and I need you to open like this, and I need you to do this, and the algorithm just changed again, so we're going to do this.
Same thing over here.
That's
it. We're
So,
teaching that over and over and over again to our clients too.
Yeah. So AI is making it easier, but it's making it necessary for you to hire somebody who understands AI.
Right.
And if you don't, which most of us don't, and that's not our job, I don't need to do that. I need to write books.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's going to be easier than ever to launch a business and sell a product. But if you don't understand that you need to be less Google reliant and more ChatGPT reliant, and you don't understand the ins and outs of that stuff, you'll be left behind.
Yeah. Spend a lot of time on ChatGPT.
A lot.
We're practically best friends.
Yeah.
Well, I want you to let people know, like our listeners, viewers, how they can get a hold of your content. So you spend a second, just tell the good folks where to go.
weeklysoundbite.com. We have about 150 people every day sign up at weeklysoundbite.com to get that video. And what it is, it's a video you can't get on YouTube. You can't get it anywhere.
Yeah.
You can only get it at weeklysoundbite.com. We do it in a major production studio. We spend a lot of money on it. And what it is I just look at something that worked really, really well, and I take a deep dive into, there's always a leader repeating sound bites. Always. It's just the formula for making something happen.
Yeah.
So did Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop, and just about to record the Domino's turnaround, and Coach Signetti, winning at Indiana, and we've done, dozens and dozens of these things, and each one of them also has leadership lessons. Here's what you can learn about turning a company around from bankruptcy. Here's what you can learn about taking a newsletter and turning a newsletter into a $250 million a year company. Here's what you can learn. Here's how you can apply that to what you're doing. So it's a little bit of a documentary. Every one of them is documentary. But it's a masterclass in business. Yeah. The two things that at the end of that video, right under it, are one, hire one of our StoryBrand certified guides to make a campaign for you. So the hope is the more of these you watch, the more you go, I just need somebody to build one of these for me.
Right, yeah.
And you'll hire one of our guides. And then the other button is for our on-demand course. You can watch the first one for free. So that's it. I'm going to be brutally honest with you about why I'm sending these things out and why we're spending so much money making them and why they're so good, is because hopefully someday you'll hire one of our guides to make a campaign, or you'll just pay $500 and watch our on-demand course. But the video itself, objectively, I'd charge $100,000 to watch those videos.
Yeah.
Because they're master classes, I think, in figuring out and dissecting why somebody was able to do something, and then translating that into practical application on how you can do it. And we do it 52 times a year. So it's a very, very valuable thing. And it's at weeklysoundbite.com. So that's, if you want to know, you want to get used to my philosophy and how I do things, just go to weeklysoundbite.com, give me your email address, and I'll take it from there.
There you go. What more can you say? Watching what you've built, like being a small part in the very, very beginning, and then sitting back and being like, this thing just keeps evolving, has been incredible. So
it's fun.
It's been a lot of fun just watching what you've been able to create, and I've truly cherished our friendship and relationship. I was sitting in a pizza place, and I was like, that's Don.
I'm so glad you were there.
I haven't seen Don in forever.
Doughbird.
And I was thinking, he's not going to recognize me. And he literally leaned over the table. Terry! That's awesome.
How could I forget you? You practically had me vomiting on your gym floor. I mean, that's called bonding.
That's an impression.
Well, you're one of the few that knows pre-beard Terry. So yes, this is we go way back. So yeah, I appreciate your friendship. Appreciate you being
Thanks,
here today.
Terry. Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet both of you. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Very, very, very fun. So guys, if you found the content at all useful, as we always like to say, please like and subscribe and share with a friend. Make sure you check out all of everything Don's talking about today, because it's been wildly helpful with us in business, and I know it's going to help you. So Don, still appreciate you 100% for being here, guys. We will catch you on the next one. Don't forget to share it with your friends. Thank you very much.